What?
It's time now for My Two Favorite Librarians. Brought to you by the Copper Tree Boutique in Dales Grand Market, located in beautiful, historic downtown Amherst.
Hi, this is My Two Favorite Librarians. I'm Denise Corey.
I'm Chantel Taylor, and today we're talking about books with characters that work at our current job or in a potentially a dream job. Is that right?
Yeah. I don't know if you can guess, but it's a Pop Sugar reading challenge.
Yeah, I gathered.
Yeah. So, I haven't filled that challenge yet. I have read a book that could potentially fill that challenge, but I put it under something else.
Oh, okay. You can't use the same book twice for different things?
I choose not to.
Okay.
So different people do the challenge in different ways, and that's fine. But I choose to only use a book once. So the book that I read that could fit the prompt is Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which I talked about a couple weeks ago.
Yes, you didn't like it. It wasn't your favorite of hers.
I didn't like it.
We read the good stuff first.
Yeah. So this was Reid's first published novel. So I know that she has grown as a writer. In that book, Elsie is a librarian, but I don't like how she is portrayed.
A lot of times. I'm sure it's much like nurses or lawyers or whatever. It's like the job is never quite exactly what.
Unless the person has done that job.
I think even still, even if you've done the job, I'm sure you take some of the things out because, again, you're talking about fiction, so you can make things a little bit better. I have an example of something that no library worker would ever do in a million years.
And what is that?
So I read a book called Broken Resolutions by Olivia Dade, and the whole series is about library people.
Really?
Yes, it's romance. It's currently out of print, and she's looking to republish it. I read the first 2 books in the series. I think there's 5 in the series. So in the first book, I've talked about this before. The librarian gets called in on New Year's Eve because they're doing a New Year's Eve party. Would never happen. And there's a big storm, and she gets stuck in the library with one of the patrons, and they do things on the stuffed animals in the children's department. And there is not one taking the act out of the equation. We barely like to touch the things in the children's department as far as the stuffed. We've got a big turtle, which is gone now because of COVID, but we've got a big turtle that kids can sit on.
And we send that thing out for cleaning too.
Yeah, for dry cleaning, yeah.
But
I certainly wouldn't put
my bare anything on that.
Exactly. My bare hands, let alone anything else, would never happen.
Well, and also, why are you having a New Year's Eve party at the library?
Yes. And I can't remember if it was a fundraiser or what had happened, and it was a New Year's Eve dating program. And I just thought, no, I wouldn't be touching that with a 10-foot pole. Absolutely not.
Yeah, and it was the same thing with Forever Interrupted because she works in one of the branches of the Los Angeles library system, and her boss asks her to work on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So I assume that would be a paid holiday. They're unionized staff there. And he wants her to work that day to put the collection back in order because some kids have been in there messing around with a certain collection. And I thought, do you know how much it would cost to bring somebody in on a holiday? Anyway.
Well, and also if they're bringing the librarian in, surely there's some students that would like to make some extra money.
And I mean, this is nitpicky stuff, but when you're reading a book about your job that you've done, I've worked in libraries since 1997.
Yeah. Since the last century.
Since blah, blah, blah. I've done it for a long time. So
That's my other issue with a lot of the romances. Everybody seems a little too young for the job they have. And I don't know what it's like in the US, because obviously the majority of this is in the US. But everybody seems a little too young to be the head of this and the head of that. And I think...
Did you pick out books for a dream job?
I don't have a dream job.
Okay.
My dream job is not having a job. Actually...
So you need to read books about people who have won the lottery.
No, I keep reading books about people who marry well and then go on to like... I don't want to be someone's wife, though. I don't want to be like
exactly.
a lady of the manor.
You don't.
I don't want to do anything.
Knit and listen to podcasts.
Exactly. All the jobs that I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. I think, oh no, you don't have the skill set for that. That's not really something you could do.
And you don't want to go back to school for like...
No, I don't.
Yeah. Once you have a master's degree. I mean, I know people do go on and get their PhD, but
I'm not doing that.
I don't want to ever now.
I have nightmares about being in school. I'm not going back there for real.
Kids, stay in school. How about, did you read American Wife by Curtis Sittenfeld?
No.
Because you've read other stuff by her.
Yes, just
Eligible,
yes.
Okay.
No librarians in that.
American Wife is fiction that is loosely based on the life of Laura Bush.
Oh, okay.
Loosely. And I don't know how true any of the things are in it. It is a good read, though, because Curtis Sittenfeld is a good writer. So in the book, the main character's name is Alice Blackwell. She's a school librarian, which Laura Bush was a librarian. She obviously quit working when her husband became big in politics. And so in the book, Alice meets this lovely, boisterous man who is obviously supposed to be George W. And he's climbing the political ladder. And then she has to reconcile her private beliefs about things with his sort of political ambitions and his political pull. And it is, yeah, I'm not doing the book justice. It's interesting.
Okay. All my librarian books are
Romance?
pretty much, yeah. Because much like Nurses and Dukes, they do feature heavily in romance.
Yes.
I mean, it's a small niche. It's not Dukes or billionaires, excuse me. Millionaires. Who wants one of those?
Jeez. You can barely buy a house here now for $1 million. Guess what I get to mention again? Oh, you're not going to like this at all.
The Trickster books?
No, those don't have a library.
Okay.
You hate that I mentioned this book.
There's just so many to choose from. Okay, tell me.
Bear by Marion Engel.
I do hate that book.
So, if you have never heard me talk about Bear before, it was published in 1976. It's Canadian. It won the Governor General's Literary Award that year. And it is about a lonely librarian. She goes to Northern Ontario to catalog individuals' library collection, because they're donating it to a museum. I'm trying to remember. And then she meets and becomes involved with a bear. And it's not like a werebear, and it's not like a shifter romance. It's like a bear in Northern Ontario. And they have
inappropriate relations.
You know what? We don't own that book.
Yeah, and we're not buying it either.
It's a Canadian classic.
What is that bear supposed to be a metaphor for?
Loneliness? I'm not sure.
Really? Because I'd rather just be lonely than have a bear.
There are so many good lines in that book that I cannot ever read on the radio.
Okay, we're moving on from the bears.
You love when I mention that book. They're going to take us off the radio.
Yeah, this has really gone down a bad path.
So you should talk about some of your books.
So I actually have some famous pop culture librarians that are featured in some in books, but also some in television shows and movies. So you should know the obvious one.
Giles from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Exactly. So he's
my favorite.
He's an obvious one. I try to stay away from librarians. I went strictly females. Mm-hmm. So Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl, librarian. Mm-hmm.
Isn't it Catwoman?
No, it's Batgirl.
Batgirl. Okay, all right.
Evie from The Mummy.
Oh yes,
played by Rachel Weisz. I love her. And I love those movies. I may have to go home and watch those tonight. Every librarian's favorite movie, Party Girl, starring, probably we all have a copy of it in our house. I know I do.
I don't.
Oh.
But I have seen it.
Oh, it's delightful. It's very, very 90s.
I showed it I used to have a film club when I lived in Halifax. And I showed it for film club and I made falafels.
So delightful. So delightful. Okay.
She learns the Dewey Decimal System overnight.
Yeah. And they have the terrible
montage.
No, Oranges and Peaches, Origins of Species.
Oh.
That's like a pretty famous librarian misnomer, apparently. Yeah. Bunny Watson from the movie Death Set, starring Catherine. We've watched it.
I know, yeah.
Starring Katharine Hepburn and
I didn't
Spencer
remember
Tracy.
her name.
I really like that movie, and if I was to go back in time, I would like to work in that library. They were very fancy with their high heels and their lovely skirts and their perfectly coiffed hair and pearls.
I mean, you could do that.
No, I feel like at this point I am too low maintenance for such things.
And they install that computer in the library and it takes up a whole room.
Section of the library. It's literally the front end. Okay. Another favorite, Tammy 2 from Parks and Rec.
Oh, yes.
So if you haven't seen the famous episode from season 2 called Ron and Tammy, Ron Swanson's second ex-wife, all named Tammy, she's a librarian, and the Parks and Rec department hates the library people. There's all these great like library jokes about how like, you know, we're like a motorcycle gang, but we rule with like, I can't remember, something in shushing. Very, very, very funny episode.
Super funny. Yes.
Love it. How about the ghost librarian in Ghostbusters?
Oh, yes.
In the opening scene.
Yes. And the big slime creature that's floating around in the New York Public Library, too.
There are lots of popular culture librarians. I just named a few of my favorite, but there's lots and lots.
Yes.
There's a Miss Selka.
Why are you looking at me? I have no idea to what you're referring.
You do know. I'm going to have to Google it. It's Miss Zuka. Zukas. It's a cozy mystery series, and one of the first books is Miss Zukas and the Library Murders.
Do not know what you are.
They are older. They are from the 90s. I'm not sure.
There are a lot of like cozy mysteries that have librarian characters too.
Yes.
So
we're very cozy.
I haven't decided what I'm going to read to fit that prompt. Now there is a book that is.
Do you want a romance? Would you like a librarian and a rock star? Would you like a librarian and a Navy SEAL? Would you like a librarian and a motorcycle person? Not a gang person, but just a regular like bad boy on a motorcycle. I may have two of those.
I was going to.
Would you like to read The Dewey Decimal System of Love?
That actually is on my list.
It was terrible.
Oh.
How I've read it. I read it like when it came out.
Oh. Okay.
I could give you a better romance. However, each of the chapters is a Dewey Decimal number.
Well, with that glowing review, I feel like maybe no. I want to read this book, but I'm not sure that it would count. The book is called Dear Fahrenheit 451. Love and Heartbreak in the Stacks, a librarian's love letters and breakup notes to the books in her life by Annie Spence. But the thing is, it's nonfiction, right? So
Does that matter?
Well, because the prompt is a character that works at your current or dream job.
So then that doesn't work. Would you like a plus-size librarian?
Like to take home as a pet?
No, to read about.
So I need something to fit the prompt, but I don't know that I want to read a library romance. I don't know that I want to do that.
I can get you ones that don't actually take place in the library, like Broken Resolutions, because that one was inappropriate.
I'm reading a romance right now. I don't know that I can do 2 romances in a row.
What romance are you reading right now?
Wolf Song.
Oh, how are you enjoying that?
I'm enjoying it immensely.
Oh, because I've really lost
the plot.
Yeah.
I picked it up 3 days ago, and I am like this far from the end.
Oh my gosh.
And
yeah,
I realize on the radio this gesture to show you how, showing you like how many pages I have left, that does not translate well to the radio. So yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot, but I don't think I can do 2 romances in a row.
Well, you don't have to read this one right now.
So yeah, I don't know what to do. I will let you know though that I have finished 27 books so far this year, and 24 of the 50 Pop Sugar Reading Challenge prompts.
Wow, that's good.
So I'm chugging right along.
What about a dream job? Do you have a dream job?
Besides working in the library, I think my dream job would be to be independently wealthy and spend my day on the beach reading books. So no one pays you for that.
Sugar daddies do.
I don't know that I'm going to pursue that route.
I don't know that you want to read those books either.
I don't think I want to read those books. I don't think I want to pursue that as a career.
I'm just saying it's out there.
So what I did just finish is, you're going to find this incredibly boring, Palaces for the People: How Social Infrastructure Can Help Fight Inequality, Polarization, and the Decline of Civic Life by Eric Kleinenberg. And I know I mentioned it before because I've been kind of picking away at that book for a while. It's really interesting, but it's not like a sit down and read the whole book in a day or 2 kind of thing. It's like read a chapter, think about it. But I wish every politician and senior administrator would read this book. It is, so Kleinenberg talks about the physical environments matter to social cohesion. Things like parks and libraries and community gardens and playgrounds and walking trails are important to creating social environments. See, I can tell you're fascinated, but I found it really fascinating and I thought it was great. And I want if you are a politician and you are listening to this, read this book. You can borrow it from our library. What are you reading?
I'm reading nothing.
What?
Yeah.
Maybe you should have a librarian and a demon. I know it exists.
I just haven't found that yet.
There is a book called...
There is a librarian who becomes a vampire. I read that book, but I didn't like it a lot. Nice Girls Don't Have Fangs or something like that.
There is a demon librarian romance book.
There's a young adult demon librarian.
No, this was an adult demon librarian romance book. Because the cover was like your typical romance, like very little clothing kind of cover. I'm sad that you're not reading.
It's fine.
It's not.
I have been listening to a new podcast that is not true crime.
Excellent.
So I've been listening to my favorite thing to read right now, which is Lore Olympus. I found a podcast. And so as they're talking about things, I'm having to then scroll through because they're actually quite in depth about the meaning of things, like steam and tea. Well, this looks like Apollo's little symbol that's always happening. And the flowers in Persephone's hair, like when she was talking to Minthy. She was growing nightshade in her hair. So it's like all these things that I didn't really realize were happening in the background. And they're saying, oh, well, this happened. Did you? So I really do need to kind of flip through with each episode. So I've been reading that.
And you love Lore Olympus.
I do. The hardcover book comes out
October.
Yes.
I know this because you mention it
all
every
the time.
Week. I want to talk about what is happening at the library in Quotey Fingers tomorrow. Do you know what tomorrow is?
Is it State of the Library?
It is. So tomorrow, Tuesday, April 27th at 7 p.m. on Facebook Live, Chantel and I will be talking about the library, and we'll be talking about where our funding comes from, what we spend our money on, what we did during COVID. It's still during COVID now, but what we've done for the past year, what kind of programs and whatnot we've been running, throw some fancy statistics, and we will answer questions at the end. So you can find that on the Cumberland Public Library's Facebook page. We will start tomorrow at 7 p.m. It will be up there after we're done, but if you want to ask questions...
well, you can always ask us questions. You can
that's true.
Email things. It's just it won't be an immediate answer.
Yeah. You know me. I'm happy to talk about the library with anyone at any time, always. Usually you can't get me to stop. It's a bit problematic. What are we talking about next week?
We are talking about rereading books.
Rereading books.
One of our favorite things to do.
Talk to you next week.
My 2 favorite librarians. Brought to you by the Copper Tree Boutique in Dales Grand Market, located in beautiful, historic downtown Amherst.